Hey there! So, you've got an English exam on globalization coming up? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your personal study guide. We're going to walk through everything you need to know to feel totally confident and prepared.
Yep, we're talking right to you. We know exams can be a bit stressful, right? But honestly, by the end of this, you're going to have a solid grip on all the key definitions, the big arguments, and even the skills you'll need for the test. So, you ready? Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first, we got to build a strong foundation. This first section is all about the core definitions, the stuff you absolutely have to know for your exam. Getting these right is, well, it's the first step to getting a great grade.
So, what even is globalization? At its heart, it's all about connection. It's this whole process of the world becoming way more interconnected. Think of it like a huge web. It's the growing economic integration of countries, linking everything from our economies and cultures to our jobs. And what's driving it? Technology and global trade, for sure.
Now, to really nail this topic on your exam, you've got to have the right vocabulary. Let's look at some of the big ones. First, we've got integration, or die Verflechtung, that's totally central to the definition. Then there's trade, der Handel, which is basically the engine of globalization. Connectivity, or die Verbundenheit, is another one, and it can be both a good and a bad thing. And of course, economy, die Wirtschaft. Knowing these words is absolutely crucial.
All right, next key concept, outsourcing. This is a huge part of the globalization story. It's basically when a company takes a piece of its business, like, say, its entire production line, and just moves it to another country. And why would they do that? Well, 99% of the time it's to cut costs, usually by paying much lower wages.
And again, let's lock in the vocabulary for this. The verb to outsource is auslagern. This happens because the wage, or der Lohn, is lower somewhere else. Companies are always feeling that cost pressure, their Kostendruck, and that pushes them to move production to a developing country, or das Entwicklungsland. Trust me, you're definitely going to see these words on your test.
So let's see how all this actually plays out in the real world. Because, and this is important, globalization doesn't affect everyone the same way. Not at all. There are some really clear winners and some really clear losers. Understanding this big contrast is the key to a proper analysis of the whole topic. And this just shows the two sides of the coin perfectly. On one side, you've got Santosh in India. For him, the global IT boom created amazing new opportunities, and he's thriving. But on the other side, there's Dean in the US, a really skilled guy who loses his job because of that exact same global shift. It's the same force, but with completely opposite results.
Let's zoom in on the winner's perspective for a second. For someone like Santosh, globalization means opportunity. Simple as that. The boom of the IT industry right in his city created a whole new group of customers, which let him start his own successful business. For him, globalization is all about growth and a better life.
But then there's the other side of the story. For Dean, globalization means loss. His factory, which was probably in a country with higher wages, just couldn't compete with cheaper manufacturing somewhere else. So the company closed, and he, a skilled engineer, was suddenly out of a job. This is what outsourcing looks like from the perspective of the people left behind.
Okay, to make these big ideas like outsourcing and global supply chains really sink in, let's look at a concrete example, one that you've probably got hanging in your own closet right now. Fast fashion.
You know these brands, right? Fast fashion is all about one thing, getting trendy clothes from the runway to the store as fast and as cheap as possible. It's pretty much the perfect example of a globalized industry. It completely relies on low production costs in developing countries so that they can sell us cheap clothes in wealthier countries.
But here's the thing. That super low price tag comes with a really high cost somewhere else. That constant pressure to keep costs down leads to some pretty awful stuff, like unethical labor conditions, where workers have to put up with long hours and really low pay. We're talking about human rights violations, even child labor. And on top of all that, it's creating massive environmental damage from pollution and waste.
And this isn't just about t-shirts. The global demand for things like our smartphones and laptops drives the mining for minerals like cobalt. And as you can see in this picture from the Democratic Republic of Congo, that whole supply chain often depends on child labor. Kids are working in these terrible, dangerous conditions for just $1 or $2 a day. It's tough to look at, but it's part of the story.
All right, let's switch gears a bit. For your exam, it's not enough to just know the facts. You have to show you've got skills too. And one of the most common tasks you'll get is analyzing a political cartoon. So let's break down exactly how you can crush that part of the test.
Okay, take a look at this cartoon. We see a young boy, he's stitching footballs, but he's dreaming of playing with them.
At first glance, you get the story, right? But for your exam, you need to be more systematic. We're going to use a simple but really effective three-step method to analyze it. Here it is, just 3 simple steps. First, description. That's literally just saying what you see in the picture. Then, analysis. This is where you figure out the deeper meaning, what the cartoonist is trying to say. And finally, evaluation. This is where you give your own opinion on the message. Let's get you some great phrases you can use for each step.
For step 1, description, you just stick to the facts. No opinions yet. Use phrases like, the picture shows a young boy, or in the foreground there is. Just be precise. You're basically just setting the scene for your analysis.
Now for step 2, analysis. This is where you start to interpret. What did these things symbolize? The footballs, for example, might be a symbol of childhood and fun, but the boy's reality is just labor. So you'd use phrases like, might be a symbol of, or the atmosphere is depressing. This is where you connect the drawing to the big themes, like globalization and child labor. And finally, step 3, evaluation. This is your turn. What do you think? Do you think the cartoon is an effective criticism of globalization? Use phrases like, in my opinion, the cartoon is a powerful critique, or I believe that. This shows the examiner you can form your own judgment based on your analysis.
Whew, okay. We've covered a ton of ground, haven't we? We've done definitions, case studies, and analysis skills. Let's just do one last quick check to make sure you are feeling 100% ready for that exam.
Just look at this. You can now define globalization and outsourcing. Check. You can use all that key vocabulary we talked about. Check. You can explain both sides of the story, the good stuff and the bad stuff, the winners and the losers. Check. And you now have a solid 3-step method to describe, analyze, and comment on a cartoon. Check. See? You've totally got this covered.
So we'll leave you with one final thought to mull over. Globalization is this incredibly powerful force connecting our world, creating wealth, and opening up opportunities. But as you get ready for your exam, maybe the most important question to keep in your mind is this. In this giant connected system, who is being left behind? Good luck. You're going to do great.